always here with us, God. You will never leave. You will never forsake us. We're never in such bad shape that you want to run from us, God. Your heart is to stay with us, to be with us. And because of that, God, we can trust you. And because of that, God, we can worship you and praise you. You're so worthy of our praise, Jesus. So worthy of our adoration. You're so beautiful, Jesus. And we can raise our hallelujahs in the middle of anything that we're going through because of who you are. Because of who you are, Jesus. There is nothing too big and there's nothing too small that you don't long to walk through it with us. Your presence is just so sweet. You're just so sweet, Jesus. Thank you for who you are. Wipe away the tears. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Csotya, and I have the honor of being part of the worship team here at the Healing Rooms. Thank you, you guys, by the way. You are amazing. Since I've never spoken here before, or anywhere for that matter, I figured I'd start with just a few Rachel fun facts for you to get to know me a little. I'm 26. I am fourth generation preacher's kid. Very thankful for my heritage there. I am married to my amazing husband, Zach. We will be celebrating our 1-year anniversary in about 3 weeks. Yes, it's been beautiful. And about 2 months ago, we adopted a German Shepherd puppy named Akita, and which has been very interesting, but we adore her. And that's kind of where my life is at the moment. It's beautiful, and God is just so amazing. Before I get into the real heart of my subject, I just want to give a quick plug for the House of Prayer, because that is really where this message came from. A few weeks ago, our worship director here, Cindy Goff, came to me and said, hey, I want the team to start sitting in the house of prayer more often, just sitting before Jesus. And to be honest, I worked for a law firm before working here, so the idea of just stopping to not do work during the workday was very foreign to me. And even after working here for 3 years, it was still I was just like, really? But I want to just sit at my desk and do my job. Like, I'm sure I spent enough time with Jesus outside of work. Like, that was pride, people. That's what that was. But I was just like, she said, she was like, you know what? I promise you, there is just so much revelation when you sit in that room. Like, you'll just see things that you've never seen before. And I know she's going to watch this, so Cindy, I have to say publicly, you were absolutely right, because my very first time just going in there expressly to just sit before Jesus, Lori was doing a soaking with the word set, and I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden, I started to see something that I had never seen before. So spend time in the house of prayer, carve out time for that, because it is very, very worth it, I promise. So that day, Lori was reading out of Matthew 14, starting with verse 13, and we're probably all familiar with the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000. But as Lori was reading that passage and praying things like, you know, Lord, what were you thinking when you did this? And Jesus, what were you feeling? And so I'm sitting there and I was like, okay, God, what were you feeling? What were you thinking? And to be honest, my expectations for a clear answer weren't that high. But all of a sudden, I started to see something that I just never had seen before. And I feel like it really just speaks volumes into the heart of Jesus and the depth of who God is and his love for us. So Matthew 14, starting with verse 13, says, "As soon as Jesus heard the news, he left in a boat to a remote area to be alone. But the crowd heard where he was headed and followed on foot from many towns. Jesus saw the huge crowd as he stepped from the boat, and he had compassion on them and healed their sick. That evening, the disciples came to him and said, 'This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages to buy food for themselves.' But Jesus said, 'That isn't necessary. You feed them.' 'But we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, they answered. 'Bring them here,' he said. Then he told the people to sit down on the grass. Jesus took the 5 loaves and 2 fish, looked up toward heaven and blessed them. Then breaking the loaves into pieces, he gave the bread to the disciples, who distributed it to the people. They all ate as much as they wanted, and afterwards the disciples picked up 12 baskets of leftovers. About 5,000 men were fed that day, in addition to all the women and children." So on face value, this is an incredible story. I mean, it's the first time that Jesus miraculously multiplied a tiny amount of food to feed a multitude of people. And not only that, but he healed all the sick. Now, there were 5,000 people in that crowd. More, in fact, because that 5,000 was just the men. They didn't even count the women and children. And that is usually the group that has the largest numbers. So there were thousands and thousands of people there. I can't even fathom how he did that. He ministered all day to those people. If he ministered personally, even to just the sick, in a crowd of over 5,000. How many do you think that was? That could have been hundreds, if not even thousands of people. So, but underneath all that, what do you think he was feeling? I think we like to think of Jesus as having this constantly peaceful, angelic, holy persona at all times. But this is the same Jesus that flipped over the tables in the temple in righteous anger, and the same Jesus that cried when his friend Lazarus died, even though he knew he was going to raise him from the dead. So we know that Jesus had very real, very human emotions. And I also think we tend to believe that Jesus was always in the mood to minister, because he's Jesus, right? That's what he's supposed to do. But that's when I looked back and I started to see this. So let's look at verse 13. Or it says, "As soon as Jesus heard the news, he left in a boat to a remote area to be alone." He wanted to be alone. So much so that he got in a boat and it was like, sail away, find some desolate place, I want to be alone. He's trying to get away from people. He's trying to get away from ministry. And as I'm reading that, I was drawn to the beginning of chapter 14, and suddenly it all made sense, and my heart just broke for Jesus, and I started to feel what he was feeling. So let's jump back and look at verses 6 through 12 of Matthew 14. It says, "But at a birthday party for Herod, Herodias' daughter performed a dance that greatly pleased him. So he promised with a vow to give her anything she wanted. At her mother's urging, the girl said, 'I want the head of John the Baptist on a tray.' Then the king regretted what he had said, but because he had made a vow in front of his guests, he issued the necessary orders. So John was beheaded in prison, and his head was brought on a tray and given to the girl, who took it to her mother. Later, John's disciples came for his body and buried it. Then they went and told Jesus what happened." Now, not only was John Jesus's forerunner and the man who baptized him, but John was also his blood cousin. He was literal family, and he was brutally beheaded at the whim of a teenager just because she did a nice dance for the king. And suddenly Jesus' desire to be alone made perfect sense. He was in pain. He was devastated. He was grieving. And I'm sure we can all imagine that he was definitely not in the mood to minister. I mean, just think about that, the weight of that. You've just heard that your cousin, your family member, someone you love, was brutally murdered. He wanted to get away. He wanted to cry it out. He wanted to grieve. Understandably so. That's something that we can all say is perfectly normal, healthy even. But when I was reading this, my heart was suddenly overwhelmed with a new love for Jesus, because it says that when he stepped off the boat, in the middle of his pain, in the middle of his grief, his heart was moved with compassion for this vast crowd of people. In the Greek, that phrase, moved with compassion, means to have the bowels yearn with inward affection and tender mercy. What kind of man is that? What kind of love is that? To be so overcome with love that in the middle of his grief, he yearned to minister to the people. Not just, well, y'all look like a pretty pitiful bunch, so healing be upon you, and healing be upon you, and I really don't want to be here right now, but healing be upon you. No. He longed to heal them. He ached to heal them. That's what that word compassion means. It's this aching, yearning. I have to do this. I want to do this. That just, it's gonna get wrecked again. But not only that, okay, that's just mind-blowing in itself, but not only that, but when the disciples came and basically gave him an out later that day, saying, it's getting late, send the people home, like they need to get food, he was just like, no, that's not necessary. No, I'm going to pull on my anointing even more, and I'm going to multiply the bread, and I'm going to feed them, and we're not going to just, okay, time's up, move along. Like, again, that would have been perfectly normal. Like, okay, yeah, I've been here all day. I'm done, folks. Like, this is it. But he said, no, that's not necessary. It's not necessary. That if that doesn't just rend your heart, I mean, gosh, when I was sitting in the house of prayer and I saw that, I just started crying. I was just like, what kind of love is that, Jesus, that you have for us? That in the midst of everything going on in his life, he looked at the people and said, I ache to touch you. I ache to minister to you. I'm going to cry. Sorry if I cry, people. I really felt this one. Gosh. So I know that so many people here are going through fresh loss and grief between the loss of loved ones and just overwhelmingly gut-wrenching circumstances. I feel like this last season has just been one of incredible turmoil and loss, where things are happening that we don't understand, and things are being taken away. People we love are being taken away, and we're not really able to comprehend why. And I feel like that's just the season that been hearing from so many people lately, that it's just gut-wrenching what's going on lately. And you're having to get up day after day and just get done what needs to get done and pour yourself out, especially those of you in ministry. And Isaac and Britt, if you want to come back up for a second. And I don't want this message to come across as negating grief. As in, you should be so overwhelmed with love and compassion for the people that, it just dispels your grief. You should be more like Jesus. No. Psalms 56 verse 8 says, you keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle, and you have recorded each one in your book. Psalms 34:18 says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and he rescues those whose spirits have been crushed. So grief is something that God feels deep within him, because as you can see from this story, he's walked through it. This is something that he is so, he again, that aching feeling, that yearning, he longs to be with you through that. So I feel like I was praying about this message, and I felt like what Jesus was wanting to speak through this was really twofold. One, I feel like there's some people, you may be here this morning, you may be watching on the stream online, but I feel like you need healing, but you've thought, God must have so much going on, so many more important things to think about. Does he even have the time or energy to think about me? I mean, who am I? And I just want to encourage you that the Jesus of Matthew 14 is the same Jesus here today. He yearned to minister and to heal even in the midst of fresh grief, and he is longing to meet you here today and to pour compassion and healing over you. He's longing for that. He wants to do that for you today. And secondly, you know how when you see someone going through something you've gone through yourself, there's this added level of compassion that you feel, because you can sit there and you can feel what they're feeling with them. And I feel like that's what Jesus wants to do with us here this morning. Jesus knows what it's like to be heartbroken and faced with a multitude. And I feel like today he wants to be the great comforter. So just close your eyes for a minute and just feel Jesus being with you. Knowing exactly what you're feeling because he's felt it himself. And I feel like he's saying, I am right here next to you. I feel the unspeakable grief that is causing your gut to wrench with pain. I feel it with you here now, with my arms around you. So just lean into me and trust me to walk you through it, because I've walked it before, so I know the way. I am the way. I feel like that's what he's saying this morning. So I asked Isaac and Britt to come up and just sing that song. It was just so perfect for this message. And as he sings this, just feel Jesus sitting right next to you with his arms around you, feeling whatever you're going through this morning. Not just knowing what you're going through or just understanding, but actually feeling that pain with you, helping you to carry that weight. I feel like that's what he wants to do this morning.
I will trust you all the days of my life. I will trust you all the days of my life. Yeah, I will trust you all the days of my life. I will trust you all the days of my life. Every season, every trial, I know that you're with me. I know that you're with me. Every heartache, every battle, I know that you're with me. I know that you're with me. Every season, every trial, I know that you're with me. I know that you're with me. Every heartache, every battle, I know that you're with me. I will trust you all the days of my life. I will trust you all the days of my life. Yes, I will. I will trust you all the days of my life. I will trust you all the days of
grateful. My heart is grateful for the way you pour out yourself for us. And you don't just walk through things with us, but you help us carry the burden. You carry the weight of what we're going through because you've gone through it yourself. You are so good. So faithful. Jesus, you're so beautiful. So worthy of all we have to give, Jesus. So worthy of everything we are. Like Psalms 31:7 says, you have seen our sorrows and you care about the anguish of our souls. The anguish of our souls, God, you care. So we will be glad and rejoice in your unfailing love. It is because of your love, Jesus, that we can take heart, that we can find gladness in the midst of heartache, God. I thank you for who you are, Jesus. I ended it the way I started it, crying.